Welcome to your deep dive.
Yeah,
Today we're going exploring this world where AI is like reshaping the landscape of tech stocks.
yeah.
And to kind of guide us through this complex terrain,
Mm-hmm.
we've tapped into the wisdom of Mark Mahaney.
Okay.
He's a Wall Street analyst who's been tracking the rise and fall of internet giants
Right.
since the dawn of eBay.
Wow. Yeah.
He's got some intriguing predictions about what's next for tech investing,
Yes.
especially as we head toward 2025.
So Mark has been immersed in the world of tech for decades.
Right.
So his insights are incredibly valuable,
Yeah.
especially now as AI is becoming such a dominant force.
Mm-hmm.
He really emphasizes the importance of understanding the fundamentals
Okay.
of a business when making investment decisions.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit.
Right.
What does he mean by fundamentals in the context of tech companies? We're not talking like brick and mortar stores here.
Right. He's referring to those core elements
Yeah.
that drive a company's long-term success.
Mhm.
Things like revenue growth, profitability, and genuine innovation.
Mm-hmm.
He believes that stock prices, especially in the volatile tech sector,
Right.
will ultimately reflect the strength or weakness of these fundamentals.
That makes sense. It's about looking beyond the hype
Yeah,
and understanding whether a company can actually deliver sustainable value over time.
exactly. A great example is Amazon.
Okay.
Their stock soared because they were able to consistently generate incredible revenue growth.
Right.
They actually managed to sustain a 20% revenue growth rate
Wow.
for an entire decade after hitting $25 billion in sales.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is very few companies have achieved that kind of sustained growth,
Yeah.
with Apple and Google being the only other real examples.
On the flip side, we've seen companies like eBay
Right.
whose stocks stagnated because their growth essentially flatlined.
Totally.
So it seems like Mark is saying that this principle of focusing on fundamentals
Yes.
applies even in the age of AI.
Absolutely. He argues that it's even more relevant now.
Okay.
He points to how companies like Google and Amazon
Mm-hmm.
are leveraging AI to not just improve their existing products and services, but also to streamline their operations and achieve significant cost savings.
That's interesting. So it's not just about using AI to create like flashy new gadgets. It's about integrating it into the core of the business to become more efficient and profitable.
Yeah.
Can you give me a concrete example of how that's playing out?
Sure. Take Google. Did you know that a quarter of their code is now being written by AI?
Really? I had no idea.
It's pretty mind-blowing. Human engineers still review the code, of course.
Right.
But the cost savings are significant. And then there's Amazon Web Services, or AWS.
Mm-hmm.
Their AI-powered cloud services are experiencing explosive growth.
Wow.
We're talking triple-digit growth for Amazon.
Wow, it sounds like AI is becoming a major factor in driving revenue and cost savings
Yeah.
for these tech giants.
Yeah.
But what does all this mean for investors? Where's the opportunity?
Well, Mark is generally bullish on tech stocks.
Okay.
But he's also cautious about valuations as we head into 2025.
So he's saying we shouldn't just blindly throw money at any tech stock with AI in its name.
Not exactly. He points out that while multiples like the price-to-earnings ratio,
Right.
which essentially tells you how much investors are willing to pay
Yeah.
for each dollar of a company's earnings, are currently high,
Okay.
they could remain stable if factors like GDP growth, interest rates,
Mm-hmm.
and AI innovation stay positive.
Okay, so there's a lot riding on the overall economic climate
Right.
and the pace of technological advancement. But wouldn't that mean that we've already missed the boat
Sure.
on the big gains in tech stocks?
That's a common concern. Mark acknowledges that investors shouldn't necessarily expect
Yeah.
the same dramatic rises in multiples that we've seen in the past couple of years.
Right.
The easy money phase might be over, but that doesn't mean there aren't opportunities for savvy investors.
So where should someone who wants to invest wisely in this environment focus their attention?
Mark recommends looking for what he calls dislocated high-quality companies,
Okay.
or DHQs for short.
DHQs, I like it. It sounds like a secret society of stocks.
Think of them as hidden gems.
Okay.
Fantastic businesses that are temporarily undervalued by the market.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but how do you actually find these hidden gems?
Well, this is where Mark's emphasis on understanding the why behind a stock's movement comes into play.
Okay.
He stresses the importance of distinguishing between a market-wide shock,
Mm-hmm.
like a sudden spike in interest rates,
Okay.
and a company-specific issue.
So you're saying that a broad market dip doesn't necessarily mean that every company is in trouble.
Right. If a company's revenue growth is slowing down and its profit margins are shrinking,
Yeah.
that's a red flag.
Okay.
But if a fundamentally strong company is experiencing a temporary setback,
Mm-hmm.
or what Mark calls an expectations correction,
Okay.
meaning the market's expectations for the company were too high and now they're adjusting.
Right.
That could be a great opportunity to buy a high-quality company at a discount.
So it's about recognizing the difference between a company that's genuinely struggling
Yeah,
and one that's simply facing a temporary bump in the road. But this all seems pretty complex.
it can be.
Any advice for someone who's just trying to get a handle on all this?
Mark offers a surprisingly simple piece of advice.
Okay.
Invest in what you understand.
Okay.
If you can't wrap your head around the intricacies of semiconductors, for example,
Right.
focus on companies and services you actually use and enjoy.
That's a relief. I don't think I'll be designing microchips anytime soon.
Exactly. Instead, think about the companies that are part of your daily life.
Okay.
Do you love the convenience of Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
Do you feel like Netflix is providing good value for your money?
Uh-huh.
These are companies you understand, and that familiarity can be a valuable guide in making investment decisions.
I like that approach. It's about connecting the dots between our daily lives and the stock market. But Mark also left us with a rather provocative question about the pace of innovation, right?
He did. He's wondering if the rapid adoption of AI by companies like Google and Amazon
Yeah.
could actually lead to faster innovation cycles in other sectors.
Okay.
He posed the question, could the development timelines for technologies like autonomous vehicles
Right.
shrink dramatically in the coming years?
That's a fascinating question. It seems like AI has the potential to accelerate progress
Yeah.
in so many areas, but how does that translate into investment opportunities?
That's what we'll delve into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore the potential ripple effects of AI innovation
Mm-hmm.
and what it could mean for the future of technology and, of course, investment strategies.
So we're back, and I'm really intrigued by this idea that AI could fundamentally change the pace of innovation.
Yeah.
Does Mark have any specific examples of how that might play out?
He does. He uses the development of autonomous vehicles as a case in point.
Okay.
It took Waymo, the self-driving car company owned by Google,
Mm-hmm.
19 years to finally launch their robotaxi service in San Francisco.
And even then, it's still very early days for self-driving cars. They're not exactly weaving through traffic in every city yet.
That's true, but what if AI could significantly shorten those development timelines?
Yeah.
What if we could see breakthroughs in fields like healthcare or energy or even space exploration
Right.
happening at a pace we've never seen before?
That's a pretty mind-blowing thought. Imagine the possibilities if we could tackle some of humanity's biggest challenges
I know.
in a fraction of the time.
Mark sees that potential, but he also injects a dose of realism.
Okay.
He points out that the adoption of certain technologies has certainly accelerated in recent years.
You mentioned smartphones, right?
Yeah, smartphones went from being a novelty to an essential part of our lives incredibly quickly.
Right.
And he believes the adoption of generative AI tools like ChatGPT has been even faster.
Which makes sense. It sounds like AI is everywhere these days.
Yeah.
It's gone mainstream.
Exactly. But Mark also cautions that truly groundbreaking innovations,
Yeah.
like those self-driving cars we were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
can still take decades to fully mature.
So there's a difference between the adoption of existing technologies
Yeah.
and the creation of completely new ones.
That seems to be the distinction he's making.
Okay.
And he believes that some areas like space technology inherently require longer development cycles
Mm-hmm.
due to their sheer complexity and the scale of the challenges involved.
So AI isn't a magic wand that's going to solve everything overnight.
Right. It's more about recognizing the potential for AI to accelerate progress within specific domains
Okay.
and understanding the nuances of different innovation cycles.
Which brings us back to Mark's point about investing in what you understand.
Yes.
You have to be able to distinguish between hype
Yeah.
and real disruptive innovation.
I agree. It's about looking beyond the buzzwords and evaluating whether a company's use of AI is truly adding value to its business and its customers.
So it's not just about jumping on the AI bandwagon.
Right.
It's about understanding how AI is being applied in practical and impactful ways.
Precisely. And as investors, it's our responsibility to do our due diligence
Mm-hmm.
and separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak.
Speaking of due diligence,
Yeah.
Mark had some interesting thoughts about how to navigate market volatility.
Uh-huh.
He mentioned that he looks for those dislocated, high-quality companies, those DHQs, during market corrections.
He's a firm believer in that approach. He argues that almost every stock,
Right.
even those of the most solid companies, will experience a significant drop in price at some point.
I think he even put a number on it, didn't he?
He did. He said there's a high probability that most stocks will see a 20% drop
Okay.
sometime in the next 2 to 3 years.
Which can be pretty scary for someone who's new to investing.
Yeah.
Feels like the market is constantly trying to throw you off.
It can certainly feel that way. But Mark's advice is to view those corrections as potential buying opportunities.
Okay.
Especially if the underlying business remains strong.
So it's about having the courage to stick to your investment plan,
Mm-hmm.
even when the market gets turbulent.
Exactly. He makes a distinction between market-driven corrections,
Right.
like those triggered by rising interest rates,
Okay.
and company-specific corrections.
So you need to figure out what's causing the price drop before you make a move.
Precisely, he emphasizes that if a company's revenue growth is faltering and its profit margins are shrinking,
Mm-hmm.
that's a fundamental problem,
Yeah.
and you might want to stay away.
Right. But if it's a case of the market overreacting to a temporary setback,
Yeah.
or a shift in expectations,
Right.
that could be a chance to buy a great company at a discount.
That's the heart of his DHQ strategy, finding those diamonds in the rough when everyone else is panicking.
I'm starting to get a sense of Mark's overall approach to investing.
Yeah.
It seems like a blend of in-depth analysis,
Mm-hmm.
a keen sense for value,
Yeah.
and a willingness to ride out the market's inevitable ups and downs.
And it's an approach that has served him well over his long career on Wall Street.
Right.
But his journey hasn't been without its surprises. Do you remember how he initially underestimated the potential
Oh, yes.
of Amazon's cloud business?
He thought it was a bad idea at first.
He admits that freely.
Yeah,
And those are the kind of lessons that shape an investor's perspective over time.
right.
It's about recognizing that even the most seasoned experts can be wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and being willing to adapt your views as new information emerges.
It's a good reminder that investing is as much about continuous learning as it is about analyzing financial statements.
I agree.
And it sounds like Mark has embraced that lifelong learning mindset.
He certainly has, and that brings us to another key aspect of his investment philosophy,
Okay.
embracing competition as a catalyst for innovation.
I'm curious to hear more about that.
Well, Mark believes that the emergence of ChatGPT was a real wake-up call
Mm-hmm.
for companies like Google,
Right.
who had become accustomed to their dominance in search.
It was a bit of a David versus Goliath moment in the tech world, wasn't it?
In many ways, yes. And what's fascinating is that Google didn't just sit back
Right.
and watch their market share erode.
Yeah.
They responded with their own AI-powered innovations.
It's like ChatGPT lit a fire under them, forcing them to step up their game.
Exactly. And that's why Mark views competition as a positive force.
Okay.
It pushes companies to innovate, to improve their products and services,
Right.
and to ultimately deliver more value to their customers.
So it's not just about picking winners and losers.
Ye-
It's about recognizing that healthy competition can benefit everyone in the long run.
Precisely. And that brings us to the final piece of Mark's investment puzzle,
Okay.
understanding the role of government regulation and its potential impact on the tech sector.
Okay, let's talk about that. I know this is a topic that generates a lot of debate.
It certainly does, and Mark's views are quite nuanced.
Okay.
He acknowledges that these tech giants wield immense power and influence,
Right.
and he believes that some level of government scrutiny is warranted.
Especially when you consider their influence on everything from data privacy to competition.
Exactly, but he also cautions against overly burdensome regulation
Right.
that could stifle innovation and ultimately harm consumers.
So it's about finding that balance between protecting the public interest
Yeah.
and fostering a dynamic and competitive market.
That seems to be his stance. He believes that the ideal scenario is one where competition,
Okay.
rather than regulation, serves as the primary driver of innovation
Mm-hmm.
and responsible corporate behavior.
So it's about creating an environment where companies are incentivized to do the right thing
Yeah,
because it's in their best interest, both ethically and financially.
well said. And that brings us to the end of our exploration of Mark's investment philosophy.
Okay.
He's certainly given us a lot to consider.
He has. I'm even more curious now to hear about his specific stock picks
Yeah.
and how he's applying these principles to his own portfolio.
That's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive. Get ready for some concrete investment ideas
Okay.
and a Mark's perspective on the global tech landscape.
All right, so let's get to the heart of the matter here.
Okay.
Which stocks is Mark actually putting his money on?
He's got a few intriguing picks.
Okay.
In the large cap space, his top three are Uber,
Okay.
Amazon, and DoorDash.
That's an interesting mix. We've already talked about Amazon's strength
Right.
in e-commerce and cloud computing.
Yeah.
But Uber and DoorDash feel like plays on the changing dynamics of how we live and consume,
Mhm.
especially with transportation and food delivery.
You hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
Mark sees these companies as benefiting from the ongoing shift towards on-demand services
Yeah.
and the increasing digitalization of our lives.
It's like they're tapping into fundamental changes in consumer behavior,
Yeah,
which is a powerful position to be in.
absolutely. He also highlighted a mid-cap company
Okay.
that he's particularly excited about, Grab.
Grab the name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But I can't quite place it.
They're based in Singapore, and are the leading mobility and delivery platform in Southeast Asia,
Okay.
operating in countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines.
Oh, so they're kind of like the Uber of Southeast Asia.
That's a good way to think about it.
Okay.
And just like Uber, they've managed to achieve profitability and are now generating positive free cash flow.
So a proven business model, a high-growth region, and a solid financial track record.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see why Mark's intrigued.
He's especially bullish on Grab's prospects, given the rapid economic growth
Okay.
and expanding middle class in Southeast Asia.
It's like they're perfectly positioned to ride that wave of rising consumer spending
Yeah,
and demand for convenient services.
exactly. And it aligns perfectly with his philosophy of investing in what you understand. Having covered Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash for years,
Right.
Mark has a deep understanding of this business model
Okay.
and what it takes to succeed in this sector.
So he's able to leverage his experience and insights
Yeah.
to spot similar opportunities emerging in different parts of the world.
Precisely, he's identifying companies that are replicating proven models
Right.
in new markets with enormous growth potential.
That's a powerful combination. So we've covered Mark's top stock picks,
Yeah.
his insights into AI's impact on innovation, and his strategies for navigating market volatility.
Right.
But before we wrap up, I have one more question that's been on my mind.
I'm all ears.
Throughout this deep dive, we've focused primarily on the U.S. tech landscape. But what about the global picture?
Right.
What are Mark's thoughts on how geopolitical factors might influence the tech sector in the coming years?
That's a crucial question. Mark acknowledges the rising tensions between the U.S. and China
Yeah.
and the potential for those dynamics to spill over into the tech world.
Especially given China ambitions to become a global leader in AI and other cutting-edge technologies.
Exactly. And Mark points out that while some U.S. tech giants,
Okay.
like Apple and Tesla, have a significant presence in China,
Right.
others like Amazon, Google, and Meta have faced challenges penetrating that market.
Which creates a complex and potentially risky environment
Yeah.
for investors who are betting on the continued global expansion of these companies.
Absolutely. Navigating those geopolitical crosscurrents will require careful analysis and a nuanced understanding of the regulatory and competitive landscapes
Right.
in different regions.
It's a good reminder that investing isn't just about crunching numbers and poring over spreadsheets.
I know.
It's also about understanding the broader political and economic forces that shape the world we live in.
Couldn't agree more. And that's what makes investing so intellectually stimulating and endlessly fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a constant process of learning, adapting, and trying to make sense of a complex and ever-changing world.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of AI tech stocks and investment strategies for 2025.
It's been a thought-provoking journey, and I hope our listeners have gained some valuable insights.
Yeah.
And perhaps even some actionable ideas to inform their own investment decisions.
I know. I have a big thank you to Mark Mahaney for sharing his wisdom and expertise with us.
Absolutely.
And to our listeners, remember to invest in what you understand, do your due diligence, and never stop learning.
Until next time, happy investing.